Hello there, and welcome to another episode of Shedtalk, which appears to be one of the more popular shows that I'm doing. Shows? God, that sounds pretentious, doesn't it? God, you only have a visceral reaction to saying something. So yeah, I'm rebasing my monsters. I did start recording earlier, but then I have holes in these trousers, and I forgot about that, and I bent over the wrong way in front of the camera. So rather than I only lost about 10 minutes of VT, so it's not that bad. Right. Yeah. So what I'm doing is I've got some of these boys, some Bastillodons, and this boy, a Carnosaur, and this guy, a Stegodon, to rebase. So what I've done is I've taken the old bases like this, and this is a bit off one of the old bases, and I've literally taken a saw to it. Bit of hand toolage, and that seems to have worked okay. Which was a surprise, but yeah, that seems to have gone okay. All right, and then this one, because it doesn't fit very well, I've clamped it. So whilst the plastic glue was setting, there we go. Nice. Couple of clamps ready to rock and roll again. So, oh, the rider fell off. That's interesting. Yeah, so let's try this one. Yeah, so I was going to do battle report today. However, it's been quite a long day. Mrs. Elkington's knackered, and so doesn't really have the headspace to be learning how to play the old world. I did try to convince her it's not that complicated. She says you always say that, and went to bed. So that's fine. We'll do it at some point. Yeah, I've got another guy who's agreed to play us, but he wants to get a few. He wants to do a full battle report with his wood elves, and he wants to get a few test battles in anyway. So that gives me time to sort out my lizardmen, and because once I've got these 4 monsters done, then I've basically got a 2,000-point lizardman list. I think it's okay actually as lists go. Because, so essentially what happens is these have an ability called Light of the Old Ones, blah, 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 something or other. And what that does is it confers +1 initiative to everything around them. The Saurus themselves have thrusting spears anyway, so they get +1 initiative when they get charged. So essentially they're initiative 3 when they get charged, which is pretty good for Saurus. So that might catch a few people out, really. I mean, when they get charged, it doesn't +1 initiative isn't really going to make that much difference, to be honest. But whatever. But I've got 3 blocks of 20 Saurus warriors, so they'll prove a bit challenging to chew through. I've got the Carnosaur to deal a bit of damage because they do quite a bit, and then I've got 2 Bastillodons because they've got a really good magic missile. So they don't shoot. It's not a shooting attack. It's a bound spell with a reasonably decent range. I think it does something like 2d6 strength 5 AP2 hits or something like that, or d6 strength 5 AP2. So it's a pretty good magic missile attack. So I've got 2 las cannons basically, and this I need to check, but I think I can make it the battle standard bearer, so it can kind of float behind everything. And what I'll do is, like Alexander the Great had a strategy called He didn't call it. I've forgotten it right this moment. But Alexander the Great had a. Oh, it's just off. You know when you can nearly remember something. Anyway, he had a strategy where essentially you have blocks of. He had Macedonian phalanxes or phalanx, however you pronounce it. I mean, I've heard people pronounce it phalanx, but you know, it's ancient Greek, which was kind of a bit more. Letters were spoken a bit more literally. They think so. It'd be phalanx like that rather than anything else. Should be. I don't know. I'm not an expert, but that's what I read. Um, that was in some like Total War forum, but somebody who seemed like they know what they're talking about. But online, everybody seems to know what they're talking about, don't they? I suppose. Yeah. So anyway, he had this. Shut up, Dan. Talk about the thing. He had this thing where they had you have like two like offset with a big gap, and then behind it you have something that can then clear off the phalanx. So essentially, the enemy hit the phalanx head on, start to wrap around, and start to like flank it almost. And there's another one there, so they kind of flank, and then they kind of expose their flanks as they sort of bulge through the phalanx. And then you hit them with like falksmen, who were like basically great weapons for the time. So then you hit them with, you know, something that's heavy hitting to clear off your phalanx. So yeah, and then essentially what you do is you break the enemy from their most advanced part, and then you just cause a general rout, and then you send in the cavalry and stuff to finish it off. So that's going to be my tactic with lizardmen, and I just think it's really cool that within Warhammer: The Old World you can do stuff like that because you get it's because it's a rank and flank war game. You can actually, you can actually use proper historical tactics. So I really like that. It's I was talking to a friend today about why I think it's so good, but I think another thing that I've realised is that it's a game that seems to, again, I've only played one game, but it's a game that seems to reward you for being good at it. So it does actually reward skilled players, is how it seems, rather than my experience with other games where very often games come down to luck. Now, I've not been to a tournament yet, so I might come back from a tournament saying, no, it's like every other GW game, it's all dice. It is a dice game, obviously, but it just seems like the models themselves are a bit less impactful. What's more impactful is like combat resolution seems to be a bit more impactful than, what your models actually do, generally speaking. And outmaneuvering your opponent is way more important than making sure you get your best units into combat. Because if you get your best units into the wrong combat, then that was a big chunk. If you get your best units into combat, then unfortunately you'll lose them. Or you would give your opponent the opportunity to chip away a bit of damage from a unit that you really don't want them to lose models. So like if you've got your like super heavy cavalry and you charge them into a useless unit of spear whatevers, goblins, let's say, and then the spear goblins get a little bit lucky and kill off even just one of your super heavy cavalry, that's a total waste of that unit. That's a total waste of that casualty. You've wasted that life, as it were. So, that's an on-field mistake that may cause problems down the line because those extra attacks next turn when you actually manage to get to charge their main block of infantry in the flank or whatever that charge in the goblin spears was all about. you know, those extra few attacks could have made all the difference. So it might have been better not to charge the Goblin Spears with the super heavy cav to clear them off, because it's easy. And the better option might have been to go with a different unit to clear them off and just wait another turn. And I think that's, from the battle reports that I've been seeing, that seems to be a mistake that a lot of people are making. They're playing it a bit like it's 40k or AOS. Because, like, in the combat phase in AOS and 40k, you do I go, you go. Oh, lovely. Hopefully that should be stuck now. So, no, it isn't. Not at all. Oh, that's very annoying. Yeah. Oh, there we go. So, I thought I had more of those clams. I thought I bought 4, actually. I seem to be missing 2. I'll just have to sit here and natter for a bit then, whilst I wait for that to dry. Yeah, so like, because it's like an I go, you go in the combat phase, you can chuck all your stuff in, and it doesn't really matter. You get to pick the order that the combat's going, and actually, you know roughly what order your opponent's going to pick the combats in as well. So it's not really very, you know. And the other thing with like Age of Sigmar and 40k is, because you can do a lot in your turn because they've already made everything do too much damage. You end up like with a lot of toing and throwing. Like, for instance, in Age of Sigmar, there's now like basically a redeploy move. So every time you move a unit to within 9 inches of an enemy unit, they've got the opportunity to move their unit. So you've basically got to, if you're doing that, you've got to move and say, do you want to redeploy them? And wait for them to make a decision. And then you move again, do you want to redeploy them? Wait for them to make a decision. And so on and so forth. And that's just dumb. Like, I mean, the mechanic is pretty sound, actually, but like, if you're going to do it without causing arguments and like takesy backsies, because if they'd have redeployed something, you know, because quite often when I was playing in like an AOS tournament, I'd say, well, look, that unit, you need to tell me if you want to redeploy it, because I'm going to move that unit there now, okay, and if you redeploy it, that means that unit can go there, but if you don't redeploy it, that means that unit's going over there, okay? So, you know, make your mind up what you want to happen. And realistically, your opponent should figure out what's going to happen anyway, because it's normally pretty bloody obvious. Like, do you know that big block of relatively useless infantry you've got in the centre of the battlefield? Yeah, I'm going to chuck Archaon into it. They're like, what about weight of dice? It's like, yeah, I quite like having lots of dice, because that means lots of stuff bounces back, and you know, you can't use inspiring presence to make them stick around. So if I kill like 12 to 15 of those, which I probably will, the rest of them will just break. So I can probably delete that unit in a turn. Like, is what's going in your head. But you know, what comes out of your mouth is, well, Archaon's going to move there because he's going to charge them. And, you know, it's always best to like tell your opponent of stuff like that, because like it just stops arguments later on. Then there's no ambiguity what anything's doing and whatever, because there's lots of little interrupts in the game, that your opponent can interrupt you for, you know, a lot of things. So there's the redeploy thing. Stand and shoot is not a charge reaction. It's like, it can be, but it doesn't have to be. It's like it's something that happens in the charge phase, in their charge. And, you know, rather than like fantasy, where the movement phase is quite simple, you declare all your charges, you do all the charge reactions, in all the stand and shoots are then done at that stage, and then you move all the charges. And it's kind of worded that all the charges kind of move simultaneously. So if they're in each other's way, it doesn't matter. You can kind of sort of, if you've got 2 charging units, you can sort of move over each other when you're charging. It's not quite that easy, but like more or less. So yeah, that's yeah. So why was I talking about that? I have no idea. I was just whittering whilst I'm waiting for this bloody glue to dry. Probably should use super glue. That would have been quicker. Yeah. So yeah, I've talked about battle reports. Oh, I've ordered a Camry box finally. I found one for a reasonable price on eBay. It was £120 and just has the models, which is perfect because that's all I want. I don't want any of the other guff. Already got that. So what I'm planning to do when I get that is do another Shedtalk where I'm hoping I need to check. Oh yes, look at that. I've got that one's got some in. That one's got some in. Nice. So I've got lots of Wraithbone. So I'm hoping to be able to. My plan is to try and get that assembled, painted, and based all in. It's going to be quite a long video, all in like 2 or 3 hours. I might cut bits out, to be honest. Oh, pardon me. I've just got a little bit of something trapped to the back of my nose. It's very annoying. I think this is like literally the last bit of snot from this cold that I seem to have had for weeks. Yeah, so that's that. Which obviously you needed to know. So yeah, I've got that plan. It all depends on whether I've still got the aptitude and the attitude that I had a few years ago, where I could do that sort of stuff. So I'm probably going to do that at 8 at night and plan to finish by 11. So we shall see if I can. The cool thing about, and this is what I hope to show you in that video, the cool thing about the old sculpts is that you can do loads of them in a short period of time, because you can just cut off all the legs, scrape all the legs off, glue all the legs, do all the torsos, scrape off the mold lines, glue all the torsos. All left arms, done. All right arms, done. All heads, done. All, shields on. That's it. As far as that's the complexity of skeletons. There's a set of legs, there's a torso, there's an arm, another arm, and a head. And if the spears, there's a shield, and I think there might be quivers, but I'm not sure. So like there's 6 or 7 components. Each one takes seconds on average to do. So if you've got 72 and it takes you about 20-30 seconds total assembly time, that's about half an hour. Spraying them and letting the spray dry should be about another half an hour, in which time I can go make a cup of tea and maybe have some dinner. Then base coat with a contrast paint. Now, contrast paints are great because you don't have to mix them yourself. So historically, you could make them. That's not difficult. You just got an ink and a normal paint, some flow improver, and some what's it called? Retarding agent or something like that. Retard is something that slows down the drying, basically. So you could mix it in like a little cup, and if you put the retarding agent in, then it just stops it from drying as quickly. Yeah, and then just slap it on, and it worked fine. So you could make your own, but it takes probably about half an hour to get that recipe right. Especially if you've used it before, so you need to like measure stuff out using pipettes and things, and then you have to clean them straight away, or else that you don't want the paint to cake on inside a pipette because you've lost it basically. So anyway, so doing all that was a massive pain in the arse, but spending the half an hour mixing your contrast paint, or your speed paint as it were, saved you like hours of painting. Or if you couldn't be bothered to do that, just a heavy dry brush, what you might call a wet brush, where you take a dry brush, you dip it in, and then you just slather it all over a model. So it's a bit like painting a wall with a roller. You put on too much paint, you do like a few zigzags across the wall, and then you go over it again. So, you just slather a load of paint on and then go back over it until there's like an even coat around the whole model. So there's wet brushing, which is like a wet version of dry brushing. I don't know how else to describe it. That's another way of doing stuff. And then you just ink that, which saves you the time mixing your paint, but you can make mistakes with it. That's the problem. Like, you could just get a big blob in an eye and not notice until you put the ink on, in which case the ink then mixes with the big blob in the eye and makes a mess. So, have I got enough skeleton horde? That's a good question, isn't it? I need to go check my paint stash before I do that, because I'll probably need a pot. Because essentially, in the Camry box, I can't remember how many there are. I think there's I think there's 64 skeletons and 16 horses, I reckon. So I forgot how much I need in my Camry army now. So my Camry list, just to explain, is like shooting heavy. So it's a shooty Camry list where I'm really leaning into the Arrows of Asaph ability, because I think that's pretty good and it makes them pretty reliable. So anyway, I've got Toon Queen Khalida with something that gives her and her unit poisoned attacks, because Khalida's like blessed by the serpent god, which I forget the name of in the lore. So, she always used to have this ability where you could confer poisoned attacks to a unit. So, they've put that in a magic artifact. So that was her unique ability. Now any king can have it, so I'm going to take that. And then I also gave her the Death Mask of Karnut, which makes her cause terror, because she's on foot in a unit. But having her cause terror is, I think she did anyway, so it's pretty useful. She also had this rule where she was like infested by scarabs, so she did like extra hits or something at some stage, and I can't remember exactly how that worked. But yeah, that was Khalida's rules. Oh dear, it's telling me I have low battery rate. I don't know whether this charger still works. It's covered in spiders. Do I put it in there? I don't know whether that's done anything, but is that plug even on? I don't know whether that's done anything. Oh yes, charging. Excellent. So that's Toon Queen Khalida. There's a level 4 wizardy hierophanty thing, just on foot again, that's just gonna like sit behind the main unit, which Khalida's in. Well, that Khalida might be in, because the artifact that she's got that does poisoned attacks, it just applies to all attacks, so shooting as well. So I might start her off in. So basically, there's a big unit of spears. There's 2 units of archers. Because of the regimental unit and detachments rules, I've essentially got a big block of 28 spears. I think 28 will do, and 2 blocks of 14 archers. So Khalida will deploy in one of the blocks of archers, and then when combat is settled with the main unit of spears after the first round, Khalida can then go and join that unit, just move from one to another. Because essentially what I want to do is bottleneck people so they have to charge the spears, so I get 2 lots of stand and shoot, because basically that's what that detachment regiment thing does. And again, there's no modifiers, so they're all just hitting on 5s. You don't get volley fire though, so it's only going to be the first rank, so it's only 16 shots. So it probably won't do anything really. It's not that intimidating. It's like 5 or 6 hits. But I suppose the thing is, you might get like, yeah, that's not that good, is it? I do this when I sort of explain lists. I start to think, oh no, that's not great, is it? But it might do a couple of casualties, and they count towards combat res, so that might tire combat. Don't know. Yeah, is there any point putting Khalida in there? It's basically 1 auto wound. I mean, maybe. I suppose it depends what my opponent's got. So anyway, there's that. There's a couple of Screaming Skull catapults. I am tempted to drop a Screaming Skull catapult in favour of an Ark of the Covenant. It's not called that. It's called something else, and I can't remember the name. But I'm tempted to drop it in favour of that because they're roughly the same points. But the Ark does other stuff as well as killing stuff at range. Don't know. I just think the thing is with 2 stone throwers, you're more likely to actually get one going off every turn. So yeah, there's that. There's a couple of team scorpions because I think they're quite useful, mainly for just popping up and redirecting charges, really. But you know, they're quite useful. And then I've got a couple of units of Ushabti bowmen, which will be really, really super good at like taking down monsters because they've got like multiple wounds too. You know, they've got BS4, so they always hit on 4s. They've got arrows of Asaph as well. They've got strength 6, AP 1, 2, 3, I think, something like that. So they're going to be good at like 2 units of 3 of them should really like kill a decent sized monster in about 2 turns of concentrated fire. So if my opponent's got a giant, well, they ain't anymore. You know, if I get lucky, 3 of them could kill a giant in 1 turn of shooting. So they're really, really, I think they're really good. Just for just taking down monsters. Monsters tend not to have great saves in this edition either. The only one that really does is like, you know, you can have a Chaos Dragon on a 2-up. Can you? Yeah, you can. You can have a Chaos Dragon on a 2-up. You can have a High Elf Dragon on a 2-up. I think you can have a Dark Elf Dragon on a 2-up. Yeah. But I think that's about it. Monsters, I think the best you're going to get with a monster really is a 3-up. The only list that would all be useless against is probably dwarves who would outshoot me. But, you know, right, let's see if this is dry yet. Oh, it's bloody not. God damn it. It should be. That really should be dry by now. It's just not stuck. Right, let's squidge it a bit more. Right. The other one, actually, I bent into shape before sticking it down, so maybe that's the answer. Maybe it's just that it's warped. This one seems okay. Oh no, don't run out of plastic glue now. No! I've got no pliers or clippers or anything like that. Where the hell have they gone? I'm in a shed full of tools and I can't find the tool that I want, which is pretty typical. Well, I do have a vice, so we'll use that. At least to get it started. Oh my god! Joe, I've never taken the cap off one of these. Have you seen the size of the hole that's in that? No wonder it doesn't flow very well. Oh, that's better. Yes. Nice. Right, so what was I going to do with this? Oh, do you know what? I haven't been tidying up the corners. I've just been nattering on about my Camry list. So that's the Camry list. I'm quite happy with that. It's taken me a while to write the damn thing because there's like it's so with Camry because there's like 2 sub factions. It's really difficult to work out which one to take. So I'm doing Camry first and not Bretonians because I wanted to do a video showing you how to like do a speed painty thing, and B, Bretonia really, I think, deserves a massive nightly oh god, pardon me, a massive nightly force, which I like the look of the Errantry Crusade. I really want to try and write a character that looks and feels like the old Réponse du Lyonnais, which is essentially Jean d'Arc, but in fantasy. You know, I really like that character. And I really like the film. I don't know, well, I'm probably alone in this because I'm a big fan of Mia Jovovich. So I tend to be alone in liking her films. But, well, not in numerous company anyway. But I really like the Joan of Arc film that she did. I mean, it wasn't amazingly accurate. Some of the armor was a bit weird. But, like, you know. I also really liked, as a film, like Kingdom of Heaven. Well, no, correction. Not as a film. It was rubbish as a film. But as a kind of a sort of a quasi-fantastical view of the Crusades, you know, it's kind of, it felt very Bretonian, basically. Pardon me. This one is also going to need clamping. Right. So, yeah. And one of the really cool things I liked about that was the... I don't know whether you remember it, but when the Crusaders are marching somewhere at some point, there was like a sort of a reliquary bearing like this massive golden cross that you could see across the battlefield, which I just thought, oh, that's epic. I need to make that. So I'm going to make that. When I did my Britannia review, I said Grail Pilgrims were rubbish. I have had second thoughts about that. Well, now I say that, I'm going back. I'm having third thoughts about that. Maybe I'll just do it as a unit filler. I don't know. Because, like, yeah, Grail Pilgrims need a Grail Knight nearby. That's the problem. So, like, they are unbreakable, but only when a Grail Knight's nearby. So, if you've got like if you've got like a Battle Standard Bearer who's a Grail Knight who's nearby, and you put them in the centre of the battlefield, just as like a big anvil for everything else to rotate around, you know, maybe then they work. But, oh, bloody hell, is it actually glued finally? No. Why is this not sticking? Everything else is going really well. Oh, that's why. Not really much contact point. Well, let's try and bend it back. Let's try again. Right. That's better. More contact points. Nice. Right, so we're nearly done. Put the clamps back. Look, see, covered in spider. As is everything in this shed. Just billions of dead spiders. Don't know why they come in here. It's not like there's any food. They just seem to come in here, build their first webs, and then die and eat other spiders. It's such a weird place. It's the shed that just kills spiders, like billions of them. Like I said, there's no flies. Don't really ever get in here. I don't know what else they're eating. Like, what can they possibly be eating apart from each other? Grim, isn't it? Life. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps on its petty pace from day to day to the last syllable of our recorded time. I forgot the next line. Life is but a poor... No, that's later. How's it life? And all our yesterdays have leaded fools the way to dusty death. No, there's another line. There's a line that I'm missing from that. So that's from Macbeth. There's a speech that Macbeth gives towards the end of the play where the prophecy... If you don't know the Shakespeare play Macbeth, basically what happens is Macbeth is inspired by his Mrs. Lady Macbeth to kill the king when he's over on a like a royal visit, because Macbeth is next in line. So if Macbeth kills the king, then he becomes the king. However, everybody thinks it's all a bit suspicious, so essentially a lot of the barons revolt, say, "You're not the king. You killed him, didn't you? You rotter." And which he obviously did. And then part of the reason that Macbeth did this was a prophecy from three hags, three crones that kind of are a kind of a metaphor for the fates. And those three hags, gotta be careful. Those three hags told him that he would be undone if Barnland Wood should come to Dunstan Hill or something like that. And what the advancing armies do to sort of hide their troops is to get them all to carry a bit of foliage with them, so it looks like the wood's gone to the hill, basically. So he gets all depressed because of a prophecy that wasn't actually true. Well, was metaphorically true, but not really. You can take that one however way you wish. And then his wife, on the eve of battle, decides to kill herself, which makes him even more depressed because it's basically all her fault, but she decides to opt out of taking responsibility for her actions. Well, it's not all her fault. I mean, he did it, but, he would never have even thought about it, probably, if she hadn't have enticed him. Hence the saying, Lady Macbeth, to describe a lady who entices her man to do dumb shit. Anyway, it's quite a depressing soliloquy, it's called, which is like a one person speaks to the audience. And it starts off tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. Creeps in its petty pace from day to day to the last syllable of all recorded time. Anyway, the other bits of it are life is but a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then has no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Which is my favourite bit. Anyway, I don't know why I'm talking about Shakespeare, to be honest. I think I was saying there's always tomorrow. The inexorable march of time. Pardon me. Until time is no more, because you're dead. Right, and on that happy note, I'm nearly done with this. Oh, this base income. It's not the basing compound, actually. It's this tool and these pots. Absolutely honking. God. I should have just made my own. There's not really enough to just slap it on. I don't want to just take the... And the problem is, because it's in like a normal GW pot, the aperture's like really narrow. So it's quite difficult to get a big sloppy load out of the top. Terrible. Shouldn't criticise Games Workshop too much though, really. They have made the hobby that... I say they, it's not current they, is it though? It's past they. I suppose that's why people have such an issue with them, really, because the guys who are currently in charge are kind of riding the coattails of like people who've been successful in it previously, and it just kind of feels like we're paying the price of somebody else's greed. Somebody's seen that they can make a quick buck out of our hobby, and that's where they are. But then again, like, that is just Britain at the moment. I'm not sure it's ever been otherwise, to be honest. It's just, money talks. That's where we are as a society. We sort of fetishize celebrity and money and all the rest, and, whereas in reality, like, celebrities are like what? They're just people that have somehow become famous. There's that TV series, the old gods or something. Forget where it is. It's like Primal Netflix or something like that. But it's like a sort of a present day counterfactual where they're kind of positing the idea as to, or the concept as to, what if, all the old gods were still alive, but, really they still need to be worshipped, and it's being worshipped, and it's fame and likes and social media that give them their power. So, what if that was a thing? And what if that's what we're doing? We're empowering new gods with social media by giving people a platform to essentially tell the rest of us how to think. Which is an interesting philosophical concept, obviously, but I think. I don't know why I'm talking about that, to be honest. It's got nothing to do with basing. That's because I'm nearly done. And this is it's like welcome to my brain. It's sort of functioning. It also sort of gets a bit distracted at times and thinks about things it probably shouldn't be thinking about. And I say probably shouldn't. Like, I'm not doing myself a disservice. It's not that, just not helpful, is it? Like, thinking about just deep stuff or big stuff, it causes you problems. There's that really good clip I saw of a homeless bloke being asked, what would you tell 16-year-old self? Like, and he said, it's, you can take your mother's advice, go and get a job, work hard, get a family, work hard so that you can provide for your family, but mostly work hard. He didn't say this, I'm paraphrasing, but mostly work hard so that you don't actually ever have to think about anything. Because once you start thinking about things, then you've got problems. And to be honest, I think that's right. I think that a lot of the time, if I was like, even like, yeah, if I was like dumb and I think life would be a lot easier because you don't ever think about anything, and that sounds, to be honest, wonderful sometimes. Right, that's kind of why I do this, because it kind of I say it distracts me. I've been talking an awful lot of shit whilst doing these bases, so it obviously isn't that distracting. But that's kind of why I've started recording myself rather than sitting here alone with my thoughts, because they turn nasty sometimes, and that's the legacy of your childhood, isn't it? Sadly. Yeah. Nearly there. Oh, no. I think I'm going to run out. I know I am. I think I am. I'm going to run out. Is that a big lump there? Oh, there is a big lump there. It's not enough, but there is a big lump there. I am definitely going to run out of this stuff. Great. Freaking great. I have... Which one is this? This one's Battlemire. I have Steel and Swamp, but that's even more liquidy and even more black. So if I'd have known I was going to run out, I'd have mixed them all together. Ah, sugar. I wonder what paint it is. Oh, that's not even attached to the base properly. Ugh. Right, well... let's see if I can chop this in half. Get a bit more out. Oh, for God's sakes. This is a hacksaw I'm using, a proper one. It can carve through metal, seemingly not GW's freaking plastic bottles. Oh, Jesus H. Christ. Right. Oh, there's a little bit left. Oh, I might just have enough thanks to that. Ooh, maybe. If I just do around the bottom, I can cover the rest with paint, so let's not waste any on the top. In fact, there's probably a bit spare on those other bases I can steal. I am desperate. Yeah, so anyway, so my Bretonian list that I'm still theory crafting consists of the sub-faction for Errantry Crusade. I think that's probably the best option. I do quite like the idea of like 100 Years War Bretonians, but you know, the concept of Jeanne d'Arc inspires me a bit better. So, and there were some great like supporting characters in that film as well. Like there was this mad. I mean, all the knights are French, obviously, but and all of them are mad. There was this particularly mad French knight that had this amazing laugh. It was just like was his laugh. It was that kind of thing. It was just that character. I absolutely love that character. It reminded me of a bit of Hagman, you know, but like nowhere near in terms of personality. But it's just there's just something about his like general demeanour just reminded me a bit of Hagman. Just kind of a bit throwaway and a bit kind of, you know. A bit sort of, I don't want to use the phrase gung ho because Hagman wasn't, but like a reasonable risk taker, that kind of. Oh, I am just about going to run out. You pig. Oh. No! Oh, no, there's a tiny little seam there. Come on. It's because the base is like warped, so like there's quite a big gap to fill in. If it was like, oh yeah, that's a really good idea. Right. What I can do is like squidge it around like that. Just do the thing, do the bare minimum on the base, and then I can clamp it, and then hopefully the paint will dry. Like, oh, this tool is rubbish as well. It doesn't even get in the cracks. Is it just me, or is Games Workshop stuff like designed to be wasteful? Yeah, so then if I do that and I nick a bit from there, put that here. Yep. 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 Oh, I've cracked it. Right, Mr. Bean. Right. Okay. Spider clumps. It's after several hours that the delirium began to set in. Right, and then spider clamp that side. Oh no, you shit! It won't, will it? Oh fucking hell! Sorry for the language. Don't like things going wrong. Right, there we go. That'll do there. So I can't finish the lizardman today. Yeah, also on the table, just in case you're wondering what that is. This is a Zinch thing that I bought a while ago as part of like a Zinch army deal. And it's everything I got in that army deal was like painted so badly. It was quite upsetting actually. Right, so this is all rubbish. Oh, got sand in there. Nice, didn't know that. Got spare bases in there. Oh, I was hoping for a bag to put all this rubbish in, but instead of a bag, it'll form a nice little pile of rubbish-like stuff. Right. Feeling a bit of delirium. I'm like nearly finished this bloody army. Now what to glue it all on. Do you know what? I might save that for another day because this one is supposed to go on. Which base is it supposed to go on? This one's supposed to go on that base, isn't it? Because I've done it so there's like a big. Not sure actually. This one goes on this base, I think. Yep. They're not. Look, the base isn't dry. They're not glued properly. I don't know whether there's going to be any cracks or whether I'm going to need to adjust it after it's dried. So I'm not going to glue them today. That's that decision made. Right. So what else was I talking about? Oh yeah, Bretonnian list. So it's actually quite difficult. I really like questing knights, and I think they fit in quite nicely with the whole kind of crusading force thing. With the errantry, stuff. I think I don't know about errant knights. I mean, they are cheap, but they are also rubbish. So, like, they don't have a lot of the rules that your normal knights do. So, like, that your normal Knights of the Realm do. So they are. I can't remember exactly what's deficient with them. It's like they're weapon skill 3 instead of 4, I think. And also, they're missing a rule that the normal knights have, and I can't remember which one it is. Is it countercharge? I think they're also impetuous. It is countercharge, isn't it? Which is a fantastic rule. So, like, you've got to have one unit of them. So, and they are cheap. So, I should probably take a unit of 10 errantry knights, and then I'll probably have like I don't know really like. I say 10, I'll have 9 with like, what's the lowest grade? It's Baron, isn't it? I think, with like a Baron or something, just a bog standard Baron, nothing special about him, as like a super unit champion for them. Then, yeah, then I'll probably have a unit of, I don't know whether Grail Pilgrims or just normal men at arms. And if I take normal men at arms, I'm definitely taking the Sergeant at Arms, because there's no world in which somebody charging that unit can kill the champion, the friar, which gives them stubborn, and the Sergeant at Arms, which gives them effectively, basically stubborn, but it's not stubborn. He's got like a special rule which gives them permanent stubborn rather than once per game stubborn, which is awesome. So there's no way that somebody can kill all of that. They'd have to get exceptionally lucky. So I'll do that, or not do that and do some Grail Pilgrims, and like I said, take a Battle Standard Bearer on a horse just to kind of sit behind them, or maybe even on foot. But then, like, what's the point? Because I'm not using the BSB for anything else. I might as well just have like an actual unit of Grail Knights to kind of sit behind them and to surge out if their flanks are, if their flanks are threatened. Because actually, if I've got the Grail Knights as a block in the middle and I've got Knights doing other stuff on the flanks, the point at which the block in the middle, the Battle Pilgrims will be threatened in the flanks, is when all the Knights are dead and there might be forces from the enemy encroaching. So then I've got like an old guard to kind of smash through that and then finish off whatever's left in the final turns of the game. So that's probably how I'll play that. Yep. So yeah, that's kind of my. But I really don't know how I'm going to write essentially Shedtalk. I don't know how I'm going to do that. I don't know whether they did a réponse de Lyonesse model at all, but I would have to have a look at it for it, really. If not, it's not really that difficult. I just need to find quite a boyish looking face and put it on the knight, and then call it a duke. I mean, this is the great thing about like Bretonia, in that essentially the champions from units will do as like heroes as well, because they all wear the same armor, right? There's nothing that special about dukes and stuff. Like, you don't need super expensive models. You can just essentially get a unit champion and kit bash him a bit and just say that's the general, because why would he look especially different to anything else? You know, I'm definitely not going to take a general on a monster. Although, no, I'm not going to do that. Not going to do that. I think that's a weakness for Bretonia. I'd rather have a general in a unit where there's another couple of characters that can like help him out. And I forget what the units are that are specific to that errantry crusade. Oh no, it's is it no? That's the Royal Guard, isn't it, of Cetra? Yeah, so Cetra's like Royal Guard. You've got mixed units of bows and spears. I forget what the errantry crusade is, but whatever the special unit is, I'll probably have a bit of that. And trebuchet. Do I need a trebuchet? I'm not sold on them. It doesn't feel very like crusadey, does it? To be lugging that big lump of dead tree around. Yes. So actually, I think this base is pretty much dry. This one's pretty much dry, isn't it? Yeah. Where it's important for it to be dry, anyway. Let's try putting. This was my problem last time, wasn't it? They don't really fit very well because I've made the bases a bit too scenic, if anything. But I can have it with like one leg in the air, which looks a bit naff, but it's all right. My main concern with like armies is that they look okay from a distance, from like gaming distance. So my opponent isn't tremendously disappointed when facing them when I put them down from across the table. So they look at it and think, yeah, that looks like what it's supposed to be. There you go. There's there's a wobbly stegodon. No, stegodon? It's a wobbly bastillodon. Right. Oh, and his spear's just broken off and fallen in the mud. That's good. And where's the Stegatron going to go? Because, like, don't know that it'll actually fit on these bases now. Oh, you moron. Just put the tall bit at the back. Yeah, so I can put him... Like... No, I'm going to have to do something about that. I'm going to have to, like, Yeah, I'm gonna have to like take off a couple of layers of this so that like fits on there a bit better. I'm quite happy having him like coming over the hill. I need to wait for the base to dry to do that one. That's annoying. This one I think I can do now because it's pretty flat. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that will slot in there nicely, won't it? Won't it? Won't you? I said you'll slot in there nicely. Don't make me a liar. Yeah, well, perfect. Perfect. Right. Let's do Bastillodon 2. They've got this weird thing, the Bastillodons, on their bases, where they're like climbing over a little Seraphony sort of ruin, which is just rubbish for like modelling purposes, because it's just another thing that just gets in the way. Like, don't put the models coming on scenery, GW. Just give us the models. We can put them on bases if we want to, right? So this is another thing I like the old world models over like Age of Sigmar stuff. They feel a bit more. They feel a bit more. Okay, that's fine. That will stick. It won't stick. Bugger. If I lean him on there, then that's about enough pressure. It'll probably fall over in the night, but whatever. Yeah, so like the models are more simple, which I really like because it means that you've got more flexibility with what you do with them. You don't, whereas like the new AOS stuff, they're beautiful, but once you've got 10, a box of 10 of a thing, that's the box of 10. Can't really do much with them. Like you can't even just like chop off arms and stuff because the problem is when you chop off an arm, you always take out a bit of plastic, so it just makes the arm slightly shorter. So, and the problem is if you use a knife, it kind of like carves through, so it like makes an imperfect join. And if you use the square pliers, then one side's pinched and the other's flat. So like it's not very good in terms of like conversions and stuff. So I much prefer like the older model ranges for that. And I just hope that when they do like new models, they kind of keep that feel. Like when they do Kislev and Cathay, that they don't make it all like essentially model by numbers, that they give you just torsos, legs, arms, and they, which does make them like slightly derpy, but it does allow you to choose what your models look like. And I think it's that choice that I've really missed about modeling. Because you don't really get that choice with the AOS models. They are what they are, and you kind of stuck with what it is. I mean, I get it with monsters, like because typically you don't tend to have more than one monster in a list. You typically tend to have just one of each if you're going for a monster heavy list. But uh, yeah. Cool. Right, I think I've gone on for long enough. I think I've done all I can do today, modelling wise. I need to leave this. This basing compound seems to take forever to dry, so I'm going to need to leave that overnight and see what's what tomorrow, and hope everything looks okay. So yeah, I think that's successful. So the next Shedtalk I'll finish those off essentially off camera. The next Shedtalk should hopefully be me blitzing a load of skeletons. I've got a few videos coming out covering some of the other army books. I can't remember which ones I've done now. I think I've finished off Orcs and Goblins, if that's not already published. And I haven't done Beastmen yet. Yeah, I haven't done Beastmen. They're the only bad guy list I haven't done, I think. And I haven't done... Dwarves I've just recorded, so that's coming out soon. I haven't done Empire or High Elves. I've done Bretonnians because I did that with the other thing. So it's High Elves, Wood Elves, High Elves, Wood Elves, and Empire I haven't recorded yet, nor have I recorded Beastmen. I tried recording Beastmen the other day, but I don't know, I just didn't feel like it. Just something wrong with whatever I was doing. I just sometimes you start talking to camera because not obviously, as you can tell, none of this is scripted. So like sometimes you start talking and then you just sort of run out of things to say. It's a bit like there's days when you're like a bit fatigued and you're just like, I don't want to talk anymore. My mouth's I've used this too much today. It's I want to just do some listening. Which, to be fair, actually, is most of my day job because normally I'm a financial advisor. So normally, I mean, I'm not at the moment. I'm in between regulatory positions. It's that doesn't mean I'm unemployed. It's just annoying regulatory nonsense that should hopefully all resolve itself quite soon. But anyway, you don't need to know about that. But essentially, that job is mostly sitting down with people, asking them, what their plans are, and then trying to fix. So it's quite a lot of listening, basically. And I much prefer listening to other people tell me stuff. I find that much more interesting than just waffling on. But people seem to like me waffling on. So, I also like doing what other people like me doing. I'm I'm not massively clubbable, but I do like to make people happy. So if these videos are providing anybody maybe a comparative, oh, that guy's obviously more insane than me, so it's all good. If that's if that's what this does for you, then I'm happy. So it's just nice that I've got so many people interested. But anyway, I'm going to stop waffling on now. It's been an hour and nearly 10 minutes. It should have been an hour and a half, but like I said, wardrobe malfunction, I think is what you could call it. And I've got a hole in these trousers in an unfortunate place. So anyway, it's been interesting. I think these have taken way longer than I anticipated to rebase. But I thought just carving up the bases would be quite easy. I also thought I had another tool in the shed that would have done that really quickly. I thought I had a bandsaw, which I could just like almost perfectly and just a bit in the corners. But like, I don't know where it's gone. So, whatever. Yeah, cool. So yeah, well, thanks for listening. I mean, I'd imagine if you've got this far, you're already a subscriber. But if you're not, then you probably should, because these videos I think are quite boring. There's not much content in them other than me, dribbling nonsense. So if you like me dribbling nonsense, you should probably subscribe. Maybe. But it's been an interesting day. I watched Ireland give Italy a kicking in the rugby earlier on, which was quite good. I mean, not good for Ireland, but good for my fantasy team, and lots of points. Anyway, I'll catch you around at the next one. So, toodle pip.